Okay, I'm here with Kieran from Hubspot. Kieran, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are things on the other side of Atlantic?
They're good. Well, I guess they're the same as where most places are. Living in your house and trying not to venture too far outside.
You guys are still fully remote, right?
In Ireland or me?
In Ireland.
Uh, so so I am working remote, if that's what you mean, from Ireland. I don't know if you mean the whole country is remote. Do you mean are we all locked down?
Yes, yes. Like at
Oh, okay.
HubSpot,
I I
Yeah. Should have clarified.
so Yeah, no. We are. I think the office in HubSpot in Dublin is actually reopening in the next couple of weeks. So I think some people are going to go back into the office. Whoever wants to go in there and take a little break from home. But for the most part, people in Ireland, I think, are similar to the rest of the world. A lot of people still working remote from home.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like we are kind of slowly going to uh, ease off the lockdown, which would be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe you worked with. Did you work with Doug Kessler before?
I have worked with Doug. Yeah, Doug from Velocity Partners. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great. Very smart content creator and a really great person.
Yeah, I just. I think I saw it on your LinkedIn, and I had Doug here on the show, and his content was so well done, and it was very impressive. Like something that really stands out because it speaks to you directly.
Yeah, Doug's one of the smartest people I know at content creation and just being able to create something that actually truly connects with an audience. And that's why his agency is done so amazingly well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely do something differently. In one of your recent posts on LinkedIn, you talked about B2B and B2C, how we could learn from B2C and get some of the learnings and apply it in our boring quote unquote world. What have you seen that some of the examples? I mean, you're in a B2B company in HubSpot. I'm also in the B2B world. What are some of the things that we could actually use from B2C, maybe from content and tactics perspective, that you thought were valuable?
Yeah, it's more so actually the thing I was talking about was shifts in business models. And that actually opens the doors to do kind of more exciting and more fun marketing. So if you think traditionally the way B2B companies went to market historically was trying to market their product to the people who bought the product. And that's usually a small group of people. And the way you would reach them are kind of through things like media placements or events or these kind of very tactical, niche targeted marketing tactics and avenues. And what happened over the course of the last decade really is more and more B2B companies create products for the consumers of the product and they go to market through freemium and they try to get their products in the hands of those consumers. And those
Hmm.
consumers then become sales evangelists within the company and kind of sell that product within the company and get that company to adopt the enterprise package. And if you think about B2B, about 10 years ago, a lot of shift within B2B happened towards content marketing. And content marketing was really the first kind of B2C marketing kind of program tactic that was widely adopted. And I think we're seeing more and more things like that being adopted within the B2B space because there's more consumers than there are buyers. And so you need to find better ways that you can scale your distribution efforts and scale your marketing engine to acquire those consumers. And so content is a great way to build an audience for your brand outside of just the buyers for the brand, but also your consumers of the product, also the evangelists of the product. And I think that's the thing I was talking about and why it's a better time to be a B2B marketer today than maybe it was 15, 20 years ago.
Right, right. That makes sense. Slightly different angle. Do you think we are going to get to a point, or I think it's probably not more of a question of when, where you have a self checkout, you have a different buying process of B2B software versus, oh, I'm going to have to talk to a rep and we'll have to do all this back and forth for a couple of days until we actually get the product?
Yeah, that's what's happening, right? Like most B2B companies are starting to adopt self-serve. They have touchless go-to-markets where you can actually adopt the product, you can try it out, and then you can buy it all without ever having to talk to a human. And there's really a spectrum, right, of where B2B companies land in terms of go-to-markets. You have one end, which is the companies who sell a low price product through a very touchless self-serve model. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have a company that's selling to the Fortune 500, which is a very high touch sales process, very high touch go to market. And then you have companies who build both self-serve and build up to enterprise. If you think about Dropbox, I'm not sure if you're a user, but Dropbox kind of sold or marketed through consumers. All of these people used it, and now they've built this whole other engine to be able to get companies to adopt that product and buy the higher touched product and higher price product. And so we are definitely seeing that. That is the shift you see in B2B, where more and more we're creating a humanless experience. However, that is only possible if your product fits certain criteria and does not need people to actually walk someone through to show how it solves their pain points. So it's not applicable for everyone, but I think more and more the B2B experience is moving to like a consumer-led model.
And obviously your company does it super well. You've been doing it for a long time. So like Hubspot, you offer quite a lot of functionality for free. I don't remember what's your limit on the company's number of contacts that you can have in the database. I think it's like a couple thousand. But where do you think when you have a free product, where does it not make sense to have a free product in a B2B? Where would it would be like a wrong approach?
If it's a really like the best products that make sense for touchless is where you can onboard someone into the value in a short amount of time and it's not that complicated to do, right? Someone actually can figure out, oh, this is why this thing is valuable for me. This is why it solves my pain points. This is why I want to buy it. If you have a very complicated product that you have to like really help people navigate the value of it or find the value of it, or there's a huge amount of setup, like you have to see the true value of this product, you need to integrate it with these products, you need to ingest data, you need to do all this stuff. Trying to force that through a touchless model is probably not going to do very well. So you really need to think about your product. Like if you think about, traditionally we think about our product market fit. I think you think about your product market fit, your product model fit, and your product channel fit. And so your product model fit is like, what is the right go-to-market for my product? And then my product channel fit is what are the right marketing channels that I can build into and I will be able to acquire demand from. So you think about how do I acquire in scalable ways at the very point that you start to build both your product roadmap and your product model roadmap.
Do you think the content play or the inbound content marketing could be one of the strategies, but obviously this is not, there are so many other ones that you could consider.
For the consumer-led model? Yeah, so like content marketing has evolved in B2B because more and more companies want to acquire the consumers of their products. So the consumers may use your product but not buy the product, but you want to build a core audience for your brand. And inbound marketing typically works because, or content marketing and inbound has worked because we as consumers can now choose how we want to interact with those brands. So I can actually go to a company, I can adopt their product, I can start to use it before I ever have to ask my manager for their budget. And maybe it's such a low cost that to get to that first tier, there's not a big sign-up process and I can decide to use that. And I think more and more you're going to start to see in B2B, in companies that the teams can select their own tools. It used to be that, hey, these are the tools we use as a company. Everyone has to use them. But what you start to see in more and more companies that it's different teams use their own different tools and different teams have their own stacks. And so content marketing is certainly one of the first things that I think B2B adopted to start to acquire both the buyers and the consumers of their products.
Makes sense. Let's talk about you being at HubSpot. I mean, you've been there for a long time, 7 years, I believe.
Yep.
What are some of the areas you focus on in your role as a VP of marketing, as a growth marketing, and how has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, so I've done, I think I've been fortunate to join a company that's grown so much that you get to do different things. And so I've really had 3 different jobs in HubSpot. The first was to help us grow out our international business. And so I joined when there was about 12 to 19 people who were the first people to join outside of Cambridge. And we set up our first office. It was in Dublin, in Ireland, which is where I'm based. And that went really well. So we did that for 2.5 years. And then I went to join a small group, a global team that were tasked with helping HubSpot pivot towards a freemium model and a self-serve and go-to-market. So the things that we've talked about, how do we acquire more consumers and how do we have a product model product go-to-market that actually helps us to do that. And so I did that for about 2.5 years, and then that went really well. And we merged our kind of freemium business with our traditional business. And today what I do is I just manage all of the different teams that acquire demand from around the globe for HubSpot. And so one of the cool things about joining a company that continually grows is I don't need to leave that company to get different experiences. I can stay in a company that I enjoy working for, with people I love working with, in a company that's doing really well, but do actually different things and feel like I'm actually kind of doing a new role each and every time.
Right. Where, Kieran, where do you focus? Like, what are some of your strength from the marketing, growth marketing strategy perspective? What are some of the areas that you sometimes would do yourself, besides just, oh, let the team actually come up with an approach?
So let me try to answer it in a way that I think may
Sure.
be valuable, and then you can like re-ask me if you want me to. So I think there's different parts of your career that you're doing kind of different things. And so today I have a group of about 65 or 70 people, and that my direct reports are very senior, talented marketers, more talented than me. They have great teams. And so what I try to do in terms of management is provide a space where people can make decisions, be somewhat autonomous, and I can help be a sounding board. I can provide an overall strategic roadmap that I think are the right things to do, and they can push back and tell me that they think some of them are wrong or that I've missed certain things. And then what I do every kind of quarter is I write the priorities that I have personally, and the areas that I'm going to focus on. And so let's say that my team are working on 10 different projects. For the upcoming quarter, I may say that I'm going to be in the weeds with 3 of these, and the other 7, I believe that you have them, and you have them under control. They're working really well. You're making progress. And if that is not true at any time, like ask me to be part of a meeting to help you to be a sounding board to remove a roadblock. But for the other 3, I'm going to be really in the weeds, and I'm going to be like another person on that team, just doing work and trying to really get my head around how this actually works and how we can make progress. That's typically how I manage. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
Do you still do like any tactics? Do you actually get your hands dirty and actually do like, build something yourself?
Do I build something? So it really depends what you mean by that.
Yeah, like for example, like like a launch and like create ads, or launch a campaign, like an ad campaign, or like build a landing page. I mean, obviously you have a ton of people who are doing that. That's obvious answer. But I was just curious, like, are you doing it something for fun or on the side, for you?
Okay, I get what you mean. I don't get to spend as much time kind of like building ads or building landing pages or anything like that. I like to think that I'm quite hands-on in some areas. And a lot of what I do is I spend my time writing memos and going through painting the picture strategically how something should work. I still do create content. I still do things like podcasting, but they're not within HubSpot. They're kind of the thing I try to do as a hobby. I still create some content in HubSpot. I've created content on our blogs. I do some amount of like content creation because that's just a core passion of mine. But yeah, the amount of time you get to spend on actually the execution of the work versus the strategizing of the work is way more in the strategizing, team alignment, team hiring, team organization. It's more things like that.
I think you talked about how all the marketers want to do what you do. They are like, oh, well, let's do the strategy because it's cool, and like you're actually not doing any work, versus you shouldn't be skipping this 5, 10, whatever years of time where you're actually going to do all the heavy lifting and execute and build the banners, create a campaign, create the targeting audiences, whatever you need, right? Like write an email. What are your thoughts around that in terms of like when do you know that you did enough work to move into the strategy space?
Yeah, I think that you should never fall out of love with doing the work. I just think it's fundamentally like for me, when I lose track of time, it's two things. There's many times I lose track of times, but 2 of the more common ones is when I'm creating content, like doing some stuff around like trying to be creative, building wireframes for a landing page. So I still do a lot of that kind of stuff, just messing about myself, or creating memos and strategy docs on things that I'm very, very excited by. So like one element kind of doing the work, one element building the strategy, but really doing the work is what gets you to like strategy is like such a nebulous term anyway. It's like what do we mean by strategy? If I create and craft a paid advertising ad and I figure out the target audience, like that's strategic, right? Like there's strategy in every part of your work. But what I see is people want to go, oh, well, I've done this for 6 months and now I just want to tell other people what to do. And that's what they mean by that. You should just like, you should really be passionate about that, because when you become a manager and become a leader and you're managing people who do those things, you can help to, if you truly understand their profession and you truly understand how these things work, you can help remove roadblocks. You can actually give them better career development. You can actually think strategically about how to like get them set up with bigger opportunities and push back, and maybe bring forward things that they haven't thought about. So I think that everyone wants to aspires to be more strategic and people manager, and that's all good. But it's not like, hey, half a year of doing work and then the next 10 years I'm just going to tell people to do this work because I don't want to do it anymore. Well, maybe that you're not in the correct area. There's something else you would be more passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how you feel, right? Like how it makes you feel. It's not about the title or the paycheck. It's about like really being passionate. I know it's a cliche word, but like being passionate about the thing that you want to be doing. But you're doing it for a bigger reason than all the fancy things, all the glory.
Yeah. I think everyone's motivated differently. I think that I have no problem with someone doing the work and then wanting to be credited with it or wanting to have internal credit, external credit, whatever way you're motivated is just, if you're motivated by finances and money, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm very financially focused and motivated by money and motivated by getting credit for some certain things. I don't think you should shy away from your motivations. You should be clear on those, and you should know what motivates you, and you should even express that to your manager, because then your manager knows like, oh, well, this is how I can motivate that person. That's how I can let them know they're doing a good work either through a promotion, a note, whatever it may be. The thing I want to be clear on is like, well, I'm deeply passionate about the area that I'm in. If my team need me to like be hands-on and help, that's not something I'm adverse to, because I despise their work. Like I actually am very passionate about the work they've done. I used to do it. I can help them do those things. For me, it's just and plus like learning your craft and learning, there's something great about spending the time, just learning your craft and becoming really, really great at it. It's why I love people who kind of become very senior at the thing they do before they gravitate to being a manager, because they've really truly learned that craft and they can actually help teach other people. And at all of the kind of times I've had managers and had done 360s and managers and looked at what their team thought about them, the main thing that always comes up is, oh, this person can't help me. I can't learn from them. People want to work from people that they can learn from, right? Your manager has such a big impact on your career. There's nothing worse thinking that you are working for someone that you can learn nothing from. That's when people leave.
Yeah, because like, I mean, all the good ones, the superstars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, for sure. I mean, it's like the years spent building your craft that allows manager. I mean, and of course the management capabilities allows to say like, this is, we're gonna grow our team and keeps to retain people, and then when they're ready to move on, they move on.
Yeah, like I think again, yeah, I think there's not, and then there's also so good managers basically are able to have better retention rate on their teams because people feel they can work with them and they feel they're making progress. There's nothing wrong then about some people leaving your team. Maybe they just outgrow the role, they outgrow the company, and there's no other path for them to go. Some attrition is good. I think as a manager, what you want to do is just have impact in your team's career in any meaningful way you can. Maybe that impact is them staying on within the company and progressing within the company. Maybe that impact is them going somewhere else and being a superstar somewhere else. But you can't really have impact unless you can teach that person something. And I don't think you can teach that person something unless you've mastered the craft and the thing that they're actually trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's talk about your podcast. You've been doing it for a while, super popular. Growth TLDR, I believe.
Yeah, it turns out I'm not, as a marketer, I'm not good at branding. So it's TLDR is too long to read.
I had to
too
look.
Too long. too long don't read, and
Yes.
and podcasts are audio, so it makes no real sense. The original thing I was going to do, the original podcast idea
Hmm.
actually was, I still think a strong idea, but which was TLDR, which is basically get an expert on and do a roundup show because there's too much content, and basically get them to do commentary on the hot topics of that week. What I found was like, and I would be the same, is that people aren't going to come on your podcast and read articles you give them to have commentary before you come on. And so we ended up just kind of changing the format a little bit, but but I'm still thinking about, like, we have 2 episode types now, and I think about adding in a third, and that would be my third.
Interesting. How long have you been doing it so far?
It's like 14, 15 months, but I would
Right.
say we've only really started doing it for the first 6 months. We weren't very good. So a
When do
year,
you?
I felt competent after about a year.
Yeah, I know it does take, as everything does take quite a bit of time. What's the, like, how do you think about differentiating yourself from the other podcasts, or if you do think about it at all when you are pushing your content and getting guests?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I started to think about it. When I first started doing the podcast, it was actually a way for me to meet people, because I'm not stuck. That makes you sound like I don't have a choice. I'm based in Dublin and Ireland, and not San Francisco or these other places.
Hmm.
And so there's just less of a opportunity to meet a lot of good people, because I'm not going to the events in San Fran, and I'm not in the States or
Right.
these other places. And it was really great for that. Like, I got to talk to people, I got to meet some people. And so I thought less about, like, how do I differentiate myself back then, and just more, how do I become a competent interviewer? Because pre that, I had been a pretty regular speaker and pretty regular in podcasts. And I was like, well, interviewing someone is really, really easy. You just ask them questions. And I prefer to be interviewed versus interviewing someone. Even today, I think it's hard to do in a meaningful way. And so then I just started trying to perfect my craft of being a good podcast host. And I think over time that I've managed to do that, I just feel more confident being able to ask differentiation of questions. That's more how I think about differentiating myself.
Right.
But I have started to think about now, what would be a fun thing to do in the podcast that is a different format than other formats. So I've only just recently started to think about it. But also, the podcast is something I do outside of a job that takes up a lot of hours. So it depends how much time I have at any given time to think about it.
And you produce it yourself, right?
Yeah, we have an editor, and we had another person that did a lot of the kind of like admin work that we have to rehire someone. But and so I'm trying to get it to a point where literally I have to just pick the guest, and I try to pick guests I kind of know something about, and really are enthusiastic to talk to, and then ask the questions, and hopefully everything else is done for me. Not at that point at the moment, because one of our people had to leave. They didn't have time to work anymore, so I have to get someone else.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to interview people well, and it is also hard to interview people that is different on your show than on others. Where, let's say, I have you on this show, and you did a bunch of other interviews. Like, how this one is different, and this one is hard. Like, because it's easy to ask the same obvious questions about, well, tell me about yourself, tell me about your job, tell me about how are you doing, and all of those things are the same. But then, how is it differentiating your show, right?
So I will give you what I think differentiates some of our episodes, not all of them, and but what I've been told, and I think because me and Scott can go deep with someone into the things that they talk about, because we're asking people on who have like grown companies and done certain things that we have experience in, and so we can get into a real conversation is of a back and forth. Oh, like, we did this thing, and then that didn't work out, and that person could say, yeah, we tried it this way. And I think that those episodes, to me, when you start to kind of gel and there's a real kind of like sharing of ideas, that kind of differentiates it from a normal interview. But that's not every single episode we do.
Yes, for sure. When you're like, yeah, I mean, you go super deep, you go into your experiences, you go back and forth that is so unique to you and the guest. Then you're
Exactly.
like, you went to a lot more levels deeper than anybody else, effectively.
Yeah, so that's the thing I think about, and we're not able to do it all the time, because some guests are just doing incredible things, and we haven't don't have the experience. We do have some commentary, but and I think a lot of it is in the sourcing of guests and just having interesting things for them to talk about.
Definitely. What about like promotion? Are you like doing from the podcast perspective? Are you doing any promotion, or you're just posting on all the platforms?
Yeah, not a lot. Even like on Twitter and LinkedIn, I only pick the episodes that I think people may be interested in. I don't even promote them all there. I don't know. People just find out about it and seem to enjoy it. So again, that's another thing that I want to actually have someone do for me. And that's actually the person I'm trying to hire, is to get someone to do a lot of the notes and promotion and things like that.
Right. And you're not really recording the show right now in video. Like that's something maybe you could consider.
We've been asked to, because we have this new episode which is called the Swipe File on a Thursday, and we go through. Me and Scott don't have guests. We just talk in depth about a topic, and I'm a very visual person, so I have like a presentation. I have like these slides in front of me with these graphics. I'm like, hey Scott, what do you think about this graphic? And people keep tweeting me and saying like, can you just post this on video so we can see what you're talking about? So I may do that. It just makes me a bit more self-conscious of like putting, for sure, if I put them on YouTube, they'll get 10 views and then you're looking at them feeling like a complete failure. But I don't, it's not a video medium. So it's never going to perform, like unless you're Joe Rogan or someone, it's not going to perform well in video. And so it's good for a certain number of people, but it still makes me feel like another failure of having these like videos with 10, 20 views.
Well, I mean, the way that I look at YouTube from that perspective is pure search ranking. Like, because whenever somebody would type in your podcast, you would at the very top of the page, at the very top of Google results, you will see that video with 10 views. Like it always shows up.
That's true.
It actually beats. Most of the time it beats podcast directories like Spotify, like Apple Podcasts. YouTube would beat it in search ranking. So for people who are interested, it will be top. Like, and you don't really need to do anything. All you have to do effectively is just upload the video. And basic keywords you don't really need any fancy keywords, but then you have this power of Google search effectively.
Okay. Well, that's a good tip. I hadn't thought about that before. Maybe I will actually get whoever this person is on board to do that for us.
Yeah, it's something to consider. And then what I've seen is, I mean, obviously on LinkedIn, I'm sure you've seen a ton of these shorter videos, right? Where they have like this extracts.
Yeah, I think I was like doing a lot of LinkedIn video maybe a year or so ago. I was really enjoying it, and I kind of stopped doing it. I actually have myself a new little video set up, so I can record pretty high quality videos at home. So I want to get back into creating small tutorials, or not tutorials, like thoughts or stuff. Right. I have like an infinite amount of things I'm a content creator at heart, and so if I didn't have to work, I would just create content in different formats. But unfortunately, I love my job, but I don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. And I'm trying to have a tiny bit of a life outside of working. So
I remember you said that was an interesting post on LinkedIn, which resonated a lot. You said, "Oh my God, like I don't have any meetings today. It feels like a great day," or something like that.
Yeah, it feels like I have superpowers.
Yes. Oh yes.
Because you're just in work. And I love meetings, and I love like the meetings we have, and I love talking to people Hubspot. But yeah, at heart, I'm a creator. Like that's why I've always been passionate about. I used to be a developer, and I got into marketing. I wanted to be a developer because I wanted to create things, and I just wasn't good enough at coding. And then when I got into marketing, I was like, wow, there's no barriers for me to create stuff. I was creating like blog posts and SlideShare decks and tweeting stuff. And I was like, there's no one can stop me like from being a creator. And I just have to like master these things. And I just think it's a real sense of freedom.
Absolutely. And you have like your own brand I think also what it allows you to do, like the way that I look at it, is one of the biggest advantages is that you are okay to express whatever thoughts you have versus when you're in a company, and that's totally okay. There's some limitations. There will be some boundaries.
Yep. Yeah, I think you can. The reason I've always loved it is because it allows people to. It doesn't restrict your ability to be successful. There's no restriction on your ability to be successful, right? So you don't have any barriers to
Right.
how hard you can work and how entrepreneurial you can be and how far you can go. So a good example is like my two brothers. I went into computer science, and I went into computer science because I didn't have really great career guidance from the school that I'm from. It's a very small village. And it was not the right course for me, but I stuck with it, got a good grade, went into development, and then shifted careers, and that's all good. But my two younger brothers, like, what do you do when you're a sibling and you also are from the same school and don't have good career guidance? You follow your brother, and they both followed me into computer science, and they both dropped out during college. And both of them, I moved one brother in with me because I knew he was entrepreneurial, and taught him a little bit of digital marketing, and he went off, became a creator, and now he's in Sydney and he has a really great growth job. Then he taught my other brother how to do this stuff. Then he got a great job, and now actually they work in the same company in a marketplace.
It's amazing.
And that's why I love it, because the people I meet in marketing are people who want to have like the kind of sense that they are in charge of their own destiny, and that they put in the effort, and if they work hard and if they master their craft, then they can actually make a really great career and a really great living of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have so much flexibility of, well, you're a freelancer, you're a contractor, you're full-time, maybe like you have all these models that you could fit together to find the right lifestyle for you, effectively.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I've mostly been working, all of the teams I manage are for the most part based in the States. That's actually one of the great things about working with HubSpot is they've embraced remote work. And so I can do a job that, and otherwise I would never have been able to do from Ireland. And I think because you can work anywhere with this kind of stuff, it allows you to do that.
Definitely. I mean, it's such a flexible option. It's unbelievable where you just need internet. You could get to work with pretty much anybody. What about, so are you more comfortable writing or doing video? What do you like?
I like both. I would say that I think I have good, when I write, I don't think I'm the best writer. I think I have good thoughts that I can put into an article, and I can like share good thoughts. I think I could do with someone who actually is better at formatting that and editing that and putting it in a way that really gets your idea to pop. I'm very reliant on Grammarly. That's not a good thing to be. I love video. I really enjoy it. Again, I just love content. There's not really a content format I don't enjoy. I think the only one that I was really hesitant to do was podcasting, because I generally am an introvert, and you have to do it with someone, you're interviewing someone else, and then that for me is nerve-wracking. That was really nerve-wracking for the first probably 6 to 12 months. Every time I was an hour before my podcast, I'd be like, oh, I hope I don't make an idiot of myself. I hope this person doesn't think I'm an idiot. And so just trying to get over that, but it's been great for that. I feel a lot more confident in meeting new people and having a discussion. And so that was really the only content format I was ever kind of like hesitant about. And I'm really glad I did it.
Do you have any horror stories from early interviews that you are okay to share?
No, I would share everything. Yeah. I've never had, I know a couple of horror stories from other people who've had podcasts that I won't share because there's names that people would know, but I have not had any I've had really no bad experiences doing it. And like, we've got to interview some people that I just think are an amazing people and just were so great at sharing things with us and having a conversation. Like, one of the ones that stick in my head is Justin Can, who's the founder of Twitch. And I remember Scott and I were slacking beforehand, and we said, we're going to try to do this full interview without mentioning Twitch and talking about Twitch, because like, he sold Twitch for $1 billion. He's probably been asked about Twitch every single interview. And I love that episode because we just talked about mindfulness and we talked about what it was like to basically finish the game of life at such a young age, because he doesn't need to work again. He was talking about his struggles, the struggles he went through to do that. And that for me is getting to have those moments with people like that. That's why it's been such an incredible journey. But there's not been any really, like, we've been ghosted a couple of times, but you and I know that happens.
It happens, exactly.
That's about it. There's been nothing that interesting that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's you just over time you get so much more experience, confidence in asking questions, confidence in booking guests, and then overall it just comes across as a better show. Like,
Yeah.
like listeners jump on it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. These guys are having a really cool conversation. Versus what I do find and what I personally don't like. That's why I really wanted to do this show super conversational. Is when it's very formal. Oh, tell me about this campaign you launched in 2018.
It's
And
like a
then
job
there's
interview.
job interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a job interview. I've heard there's a lot of podcasts that are like a job interview, where you just
And it's
think the
just,
person's applying for a job.
they're so boring though. Like I feel like at the end of the day, like when I listen to your show, like I want to know more about the person. Yes, of course I want to know the tactics and the strategy and all the frameworks and all of these things. That's great. But I think like context is important. Like your context matters because we all have different one.
So I don't know. So I would have agreed with you pre us asking our audience what they want. So Scott and I used to do this thing where we'd have to first 5 to 10 minutes was just the fun, get to know each other, and we did things like we had quizzes and like fun games, and it was more to your point, like, oh, this person is like, let's get to know them and get them to do some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the survey and everyone's like, can you just cut the 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes and get straight into like the stuff we need to learn? And I get it. Like when I'm on a podcast, I think unless it's, Elon Musk, but for the most part, what I want to know is what's this person done? How can I learn from them? And I, for the most part, may know who they are. If you're in that space and you're listening to someone in marketing and growth, and we try to stick to founders and execs, you probably know the company, you probably know who they are. So yeah, that's been interesting. Because I originally was like, I want this to be a fun, almost like a Friday night chat show,
Yeah.
and people didn't like that part of it.
Yeah, I think it also depends on. I mean, it does depend a bit on the audience for sure. But I've also noticed and I've heard from multiple people who are in exec roles. They're like, "Hey, I want this 25-minute thing. Tell me exactly how do you do it, right?
Yeah.
How did you execute this thing?" And it totally makes sense. And I think it's a faster growth strategy when you focus on this actionable narrow thing. Then you're going to grow a lot quicker. Versus if you just go broad, people are like, I don't know, and it's probably going to take a lot longer because you're targeting much wider audience.
Yes. Yeah. Like, people want the good stuff. Like they have not much time. They want you to get straight into it, and they want to know that their 25 to 30 minutes was worth it.
Yeah, pretty much. What are you? I mean, I love gear, so I have to ask you that. What's your video setup? What kind of gear are you using?
I don't know, like HubSpot, because a lot of my events now, the conferences I speak at are all online, and so we have a really great video team in HubSpot, and they got me to buy a bunch of equipment so I can start to pre-record my event talks and then submit them to these conferences. And so I actually can't tell you what it was. It was an iPad, it was a spotlight, it was a bunch of cables. And so they're going to actually walk me through. They're kind enough to be able to, they're going to walk me through putting it together, and they're going to walk me through, actually do a walkthrough of my house to find the best place to set it up.
Right.
And so
right.
I'm excited. So as soon as I get that set up, I'm probably going to go back to doing some LinkedIn stuff and some video stuff.
That's very cool. Have you thought about doing a vlog at any point?
I'm not interested enough. My
Mm-hmm.
life is not interested enough. I don't know if anyone's life is interested enough right now. Right, we're in our house, but nah, I'm not. Like, I love talking about work and growth and stuff. I'm not really a
Right.
talk about myself person.
Right. Yeah. No, it does take a certain. It's a big pivot. I know. So you post on LinkedIn. You do it not every day. Do it once in a while. Get really great traction. Is it more just, well, I have this thought, I want to put it out, or there's something more behind it?
It's seed and thoughts, and then those thoughts usually end up as podcast episodes or event talks, or they're just things that I'm thinking about, and I start to like formulate those ideas, and then they end up mostly become like podcast episodes, blog posts, event speaks. But yeah, LinkedIn is just, I think it's a great way to just get feedback and get I always try to end my LinkedIn like, what are your thoughts? What have I missed? And sometimes no one gives me feedback. I think it's because I'm thinking about stuff that is just like doesn't make sense. And sometimes I get get 30, 40, 50 comments of people telling me, and I can actually go through them all and go, wow, yeah, this is actually helping me really kind of crystallize that thought.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to pre-test, like really, really effective. And because it's also like it prioritizes this really well organic reach. Where
Yep.
like people who are in your third, like their like third degree connection, they would still read it, which is impressive.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I love LinkedIn as I think for a moment there, it was getting a little bit repetitive and because there was a sequence of how you can do things, but I think it's got pretty good. And I try to only post when I have something to post versus like, oh, I see a lot of people going, well, I have this calendar and I try to post twice a day on here. I just post when I've got something to like I think I haven't posted on Twitter for the last 3 days because I've had nothing to like contribute of value. So I just try to post when I have something interesting in my mind.
I find it hard though. Like the way that I do LinkedIn posts is I come up with ideas in advance and then I write them up before the week starts and then I start posting them. But then I think the key is right understanding how do you get these ideas. Some of them you'll have on your mind and you would want to push out. That's great. But then the other ones would be well like is there anything trending that people are already talking about that you've seen?
Hmm.
If not, then well, let me go through the feed and see if there's some really interesting thoughts that you could add up and comment on. Or what I found works pretty well is if you're following certain people, let's say 2 or 3 folks who are super cool and have the same interests, you go to their page and you look at their posts, the previous posts, and you look at the ones that performed well that are also interesting to you. Could you reframe that in a certain way? Is there something
That's a
else you
good
could
tip.
add up? And those ones
Yep.
perform extremely well. I found like if I take an idea and I like I totally agree, and here's what else you can do. Those posts perform super well.
I like that actually. I haven't thought about that. I'm not. I just not. It's just it's an indication of the time I have.
Right.
I like that. It's more structured, but I like the reverse engineering and LinkedIn. I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah,
Like reverse
definitely
engineer from
takes
other
time.
people's ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely takes time. What are your thoughts on the future for you personally, being VP of growth? Like, do you want to keep going when you're stop learning? Do you want to do something else at a certain point? Become a full-time YouTuber, 2022?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Someone else asked me about my goals yesterday. I don't have any at the moment. I think I go through periods where I have these like, oh, I need to do this thing, and at the moment I'm just trying to enjoy life. I think definitely the pandemic has helped me to just realize that I'm just actually trying to live in the moment. If I get up and as long as I enjoy the work I do, the team I work with, and maybe something I'm a true believer in if you're very focused on the area that you enjoy working in, if you're someone who continually tries to be helpful wherever you can be helpful, and I try every time, anytime someone wants half an hour of my time or anything I can do to help, I try to do that. And you stay kind of in that space and positive, like opportunities present themselves versus like me needing to go and like seek them. And so I think I'm doing this until something tells me that I should do something different. And at the moment, um, yeah, I'm living really kind of in the moment. I haven't really
Good,
thought beyond it.
good intent always wins.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Are there any book recommendations? I know you have limited time day to day to probably read, but like, are there any books or pieces of content from the marketing perspective that you keep coming back to, or you found really cool in the last couple of months?
That's a really good question. Someone else asked me this yesterday, and I didn't have a good answer. And I wondered why I didn't have a good answer. I consume content, but I just don't think I consume it in a way that I remember where the content is coming from.
Hmm.
Um, so I read uh, Ben Thompson's Stratchery.
Oh,
I
I
think
love
that's
that.
it's one of the go-to places. So I'm trying to think through. You know what? A lot of my content gets pushed to me
Hmm.
through my network. I think I'm less like I get content from people who I know via Slack or WhatsApp. I get some amount of content that I just find on Twitter, and then I have some subscription newsletters. And in terms of books, I was actually thinking about this yesterday.
Hmm.
I'm reading. What am I reading at the moment? It's like the how it's basically how narratives go viral. stories go
Oh,
viral, and in economics. So I'm reading
that's
like a
pretty
lot of
cool.
weird stuff.
Well, it's
But I
important.
don't have. Yeah, I get asked the book recommendation thing, and I should have, but I just don't want to. I don't want to come out with this. Read the hard things about the hard things, which I've read, and all the
I
kind of
know,
standard books.
classic.
I just can't remember what I'm
You, you
what I'm
can you
reading, if
can
I'm being
you can
honest.
share with me, and then I'll link it in the show notes after. That's totally cool because I know it's a hard question to answer. Like I don't remember half of the stuff I read too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm reading Business Model Generation, a handbook for visionaries, game chasers, and challengers. I'm looking at my Amazon, and I'm reading Narrative Economics, and I'm not sure what else I'm reading.
I'll check it out. Kieran, where's everybody could find you online?
So you can find me at so my Twitter ID is @SearchBrat, which is kind of a weird Twitter ID, or you can just search for Kieran Flanagan on LinkedIn and connect me that way. And if you want to check out the podcast, it's Growth TLDR.
Is there anything we have missed, or anything you wanted to have as a final message to the audience?
No, I think we covered. Actually covered a lot. So hopefully it was helpful for people, and people got some use out of it.
Kieran, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sergey.